Hi. Okay, so I tried recording audio while I was playing a game. I had a few problems, so it was 10 minutes long, so it's not a big deal. I'll talk about everything I talked there again. I wasn't speaking too much during the audio, which was my main concern, I guess. So, yeah, I'll be recording this audio again and hope you're doing good. Hope you have been having a great day. I hope that's grammatically correct. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about a few things today. So this will be a bit technical talk and then bit of my daily life talk. So I wanted to start with the technical talk. Um, yeah, so piracy. I wanted to talk about how piracy works. I'm sorry if I've already talked about this, might have, but I'll go through what piracy is, a bit of history with piracy, and interesting facts about piracy in video games. And yeah, so first of all, I think the first question should be why don't we just do the same thing we do with movies or songs, that we just copy paste to our friends. And the reason is that video games are software that you run on your computer, so the developers have options to add features to prevent the games from being pirated easily. So I'll actually show you an example of this happening. So if I go to my games, I have a GZ Doom installed. So it's an engine that is capable of running Doom wards. Not going into too much detail, it's basically a ward file is a file that's made in a Doom engine that you can run. So when you close the game, this is what it says: Doom, a hellish 3D game made by id Software. You are playing the ultimate Doom. If you haven't paid for Doom, you are playing illegally. That means you owe us money. Of course, a guy like you probably owes a lot of people money, your friends, maybe even your parents. Stop being a freeloader and register Doom. Call us now at 1800 8 games. We can help. We hope you enjoy playing Doom. We enjoyed making it for you. If you have any problems playing Doom, please call our technical support line at, then there's a real number there. Then there's the name of basically credits. So Doom. So basically, Doom was one of the games that was uh, shared a lot. So I'll actually search the meaning of freeware, because freeware was one of the words that was being thrown around a lot during this time. So freeware word origin, I believe. Okay. Yeah, so it says freeware is a software most often proprietary that is distributed at no monetary cost to the end user. I'm trying to see if Doom was ever freeware. I know that the word was tossed around when it comes to Doom. Freeware was tossed around a lot. The word in regards in respect to Doom, because it was one of those games that was just so much quote unquote pirated. I think id Software understands the importance of piracy in the growth of a game, because they, as you saw in the basically end screen, yeah, they acknowledge that you are playing it illegally, but they also don't try to harp down on you or anything like that. And but then eventually, as happens with any other media, people started going harsh on video game piracy. They started developing methods to prevent video game piracy, and as such, it became more and more important for hackers. Not hackers, I mean, you can call them hackers. It's more like crackers would be a better word. It became important for crackers and cracking groups to emerge as people who would take games and make them easier for other people to play. And this became basically a cat and mouse game of game developers creating new and more advanced methods of anti-piracy. And the next day or something, a pirated version of that game comes out. So this battle would just go on. And not to say that all. So by the way, I should also mention my stance on piracy, which is that piracy is important for video games, and this is me both as a player and a game creator. I haven't created that many games, but I plan to keep all of them free. and even if I have a paid version of them, I do want to have demos or the entire version free. Just the paid version would have something extra. But the point is that without piracy, I would never be in gaming, and also, it's the same with a lot of people. So for me, piracy is very important. I think that I might have mentioned this before. Again, sorry if any of this is repeated, but I think when it comes to piracy, it's one of those things where a person who is not going to buy the game is not going to buy the game. A person who is pirating the game is already planning not to buy the game. They're not pirating it to save money. They're most probably pirating it to play the game. If they had money to spend on the game, I don't think anyone would prefer piracy, because it's just much more convenient to have the game on a library. You don't have to waste space on your PC to store it. Piracy in general is only done by people who, I mean, mostly only done by people who actually don't have the money or don't have the resources to buy a game. But anyways, going back, anti-piracy methods started to emerge, and a lot of them were very simple. Then they started becoming more and more advanced to where we reach today. We have DRM. So I'll quickly see what DRM is. So I remember it being direct memory access. Now don't ask me why it's called DRM and it's direct memory access. Let's see. Digital rights management. Okay, so I was incorrect. So it's called digital rights management. DRM is basically a new tool which reads your RAM. And just to be clear, this applies in different fields differently, and I'm not very knowledgeable about the exact workings of it, but I am going to say what I am aware of, which is DRM reads your RAM. So basically it just a second. Okay, I pressed a few buttons and suddenly I think voice recognition is started. Let me just so what I'm trying to do right now, by the way, is I'm trying to open power tools, and I'm trying to pin Audacity so it doesn't remove. So fancy what's it called, Power Toys, I think. Power Toys is basically a tool which you can use. Oh wait, I did it. Okay, I remember the shortcut is Windows Control T. So basically, what Power Toys is extension to Windows where you can, which is strangely just available on Windows itself. Like, it's an official thing, and what it does is it lets you have a very very good amount of control over your PC and gives you a lot of fun tools to play with. But yeah. Anyway, so DRM. Basically, what DRM does is it reads your RAM to check whether or not the game you are running should be running on your computer. Now, the problem with that is that DRM takes a lot of energy for your laptop to run. So basically, if your laptop is running both DRM and a video game at the same time, one of those things is going to suffer, and most probably it's going to be your game. Other than that, DRM can also cause issues with some PCs. It's rare, but it can cause some issues in terms of like compatibility, especially in PCs, because in consoles this is rarely a thing, because consoles are much more like iPhones in a sense, where you can't really do too much customization with them. They still get jailbroken and they still have pirated games running on them, but it's much more difficult to do. PCs, on the other hand, because they're so much closer to open source, they are much more prone to piracy. Now, going back to DRM, because DRM hinders your performance, there has been an argument that getting a game which has DRM in it from the official website is usually the worst version. Instead, if you had just gotten a pirated version, that would be better, because that has no DRM, so it runs better. Obviously, a lot of this is speculation, a lot of this is truth, but the point is that piracy has been a huge issue in terms of gaming, and the way people have tried to go around it is very, I would say, weird. Because see, the thing is that in terms of movies, right, the way movies earn most of the money is through cinema. It's an experience that you can't miss. Similarly with gaming, there is no such experience you can't miss kind of thing. You have to just trust the people to buy the games. So I think, and just as an example, there are games. So there is one game that just straight up has a pirated. So if I go to Fitgle Repack site, so after this I'll be talking about. Uh, After this, I will be talking about games specifically. Just a second. Yeah, so there is this game called Rapella Fella, and their developers have a pirate edition which is free. Like, it's just literally just the game, but the free version of it. Then there is CD Projekt Red and the creators of Baldur's Gate, which I think Baldur's Gate 3 Wikipedia. So wait just a second. Okay, all what I'm getting is Baldur's Gate 3 guide. But yeah, so Baldur's Gate 3, the developers being just a second. Larian Studios, yes. So Larian Studios and CD Projekt Red, makers of Baldur's Gate 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 or Witcher 3. They have always been kind of supportive of anti-DRM. So as far as I am aware, Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have any DRM. I'll just check this once. Baldur's Gate 3 DRM. Just a second. Yeah, so Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't have any DRM in it. Then there is CD Projekt Red, who have historically been very upfront about not having DRM in their games. Interestingly, I believe Ubisoft started as a pirating company. Let me just check this. Ubisoft pirating company. This is when I was planning to join. Let me just see this. Okay, so this will be a bit of what do you call it? Just a second. So this will be a bit of going under a rabbit hole, but I hope you don't mind. Ubisoft. It might be Ubisoft or it might be CD Projekt Red. Okay, so Ubisoft Wikipedia, yes. Okay. So I need to go to the history. I'm sorry for being silent. I'm just reading this quickly. If I read it out loud, it won't make any sense. Okay. So from what I see, Ubisoft actually just did what do you call it? Distributing computer hardware and distributing games. So I'll just read a bit of it. This is from Wikipedia. All five. So this is talking about the I think Guillotine Brothers, Gilmore Brothers. Did I just say Guillotine Brothers? I'm so sorry, but Gilmore Brothers. So these are five brothers. So I'll read about them. All five gained business experience while at university, which they brought back to the family business after graduating. The brothers came up with the idea of diversification to sell other products of use to farmer. Claude began with selling CD audio media. Later, the brothers expanded to computer and additional software that included video games. So it doesn't go after this talking about They originally only sold through mail order and then were getting orders from French retailers since they were able to undercut other suppliers by up to 50% of the cost of some titles. So the question is, how are you cutting these this much? So how are you cutting this much money? Yves Guillemot was, he still is one of the important people in. Yeah, so out of all the five founders, only Yves has. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He is the only one who has a Wikipedia page. Okay, so I think okay. Let's also see CD Projekt Red because I might be confusing their story with CD Projekt Red's. Okay, so oh, interestingly, CD Projekt Red has history with Baldur's Gate. Who knew? Um, yeah. So video game retailers before they founded the company, which initially acted as a distributor of foreign games for domestic market. History. Yes, here it is. It made me. Now I have goosebumps reading this. But CD Projekt Red was founded in May 1994 by Marcin Iwinski and Mikhail. I'm not going to try and read that. According to Iwinski, although he enjoyed playing video games as a child, they were scarce in then communist Poland. Marcin Iwinski in high school was selling cracked copies of Western video games at a Warsaw marketplace. So here it is. CD Projekt Red. It was CD Projekt Red is the company that started off. One of the founders started off by selling cracked, which is also weird, selling cracked video games, but selling cracked versions of video games. And again, they are one of the few companies that uphold anti-DRM very, very strongly. You can literally get their games from your friends and play it. And again, these are games that sell like hotcakes. I'm sorry, I'm not very familiar with the. I know that there's something like selling like hot pancakes or something like this. I'll just search it a bit. Selling like hotcakes. Okay, yeah, so I was correct. Selling like hotcakes. Baldur's Gate 3, and let's just see Baldur's Gate 3 sales for a second. So, Baldur's Gate 3 numbers, there is no official, it says about 20 million copies. So that's pretty good, right? And these companies have so when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3 or any of CD Projekt Red's game, you can just copy them from your friends. But for the other stuff, you need cracked versions. So cracking is something that I'm not very familiar with. I wish I was. But let's talk about I'll just talk about cracking a bit. So basically it involves removing elements from the game which detect whether or not you're playing on a correct PC, or alternatively tricking them into thinking that you are playing on a correct PC. Again, these are things that are kind of superficial. I don't think anti-piracy measures need to be this strong. But again, continuing on, what happens is some cracker groups. So one cracker group that actually shut down is Codex. So Codex, I think, shut down quite long ago, and all of their competitors, because these are like competitors, whoever cracks the game first is like the challenge. And when they shut down, all of the competitors were like quite sad that one of the biggest and best cracking groups shut down. One of them being Fit Girl, who. But yeah, so cracking groups basically race to see who can crack the games first, and then they release it. And now I'll talk about piracy, actually how it works. So basically, you have two ways to pirate a game. One is through Pirate Bay, and the other is through dedicated sites. So I'll talk about the dedicated sites first because they're the easiest to understand. So there are two sites that I personally use. There's FitGirl Repack, and then there is Dodi Repacks. So both of these are very similar to each other. Major difference being that Dodi repacks are generally much faster in terms of installation, whereas FitGirl repack is generally much more stable and much more reliable. both are pretty much 100% virus free. So if you want to pirate any games from there, you can. All of them export exclusively for PC, I want to say. I think Fidgal, I have seen a few Nintendo repacks as well. Just to kind of make it clear, Dodi repacks and Fidgal repacks, they are not crackers themselves. They don't crack the games. All they do is repack them. So what it means is basically they get the cracked games from the crackers, and then they compress them and make it so that you can install them on your PC. It's basically compressing them nicely, and so that when you install the game, it doesn't take as much space, and everything is set for you. You don't have to put any extra files anywhere. So these are the two sites. So basically what you do is you go there, you click on a game, you go to torrent, and you get that torrent file, and then you run that on a client like uTorrent. So what torrenting is basically that you have multiple PCs. So torrenting is basically a sort of internet that is run by the people. So if you think about, for example, Reddit is basically a huge server where we are all interacting with each other. Or YouTube is a large server where videos are uploaded and people are commenting, right? None of that is stored in anyone's computer. This is the opposite of what happens in a torrent client, where you have stuff in your PC and you're directly sending it out to everyone in the world, whoever has that client. So for example, to run YouTube, you need a browser like Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome, or the app of YouTube. The app of YouTube is doing the same thing. It's basically taking the data from the server and running it on your mobile. Also, if you already know this, I'm sorry. But yeah, I hope at least you find something interesting. That, for example, CD Projekt Red was the creators of CD Projekt Red were into piracy at some point. But yeah, so just like how YouTube or Reddit need an app or a software to run them, to use the torrent web, basically you need a torrent client, and they come in BitTorrent, uTorrent. I personally use uTorrent. It's technically microtorrent. The symbol for micro is mu. So if you search uTorrent, that's what you will find. There's BitTorrent, there is QBitTorrent. You can use any of them, it doesn't really matter. But once you get this torrenting software, you can then get a magnet. So what a magnet is, basically a link. Just like you have a link, for example, YouTube's link is youtube.com, right? Magnets are very large links. They are not, it's not large in space, but like large in how long they are. And you can put that in your torrent, and it will recognize that, oh, this is the file. And torrents are generally only used to transfer files between each other and nothing else. So you can't really comment or anything. But if you can get those files, you can share it with each other directly through your PC, and that's what torrenting is. So again, just to summarize, you have a torrent client in your PC, and you have a magnet that you get from somewhere. For example, you can get it from a Fidgal repack or Dodi repack, and then you use that to. I wonder if Pillow Talk Audio will allow this audio, but yeah. I mean, this is why I keep trying to make roleplay audio, so I don't get kicked out of Pillow Talk Audio at some point for teaching people how to pirate. But yeah, we will just call this educational content. But that's not what Pillow Talk Audio is about, is it? Anyways, so yeah, as I was saying, so you have a client where you put that magnet, and the client then recognizes it, and it downloads whatever content is on the other PC. So this is one thing, the one way, which is dedicated sites. The other way is through Pirate Bay, and Pirate Bay is basically where you search for things. Now, Pirate Bay is very risky to use for people who don't know about piracy, because there are a few things. I'll open Pirate Bay right now. Pirate Bay is also very hard to get. So there's a website called piratebayproxy.net, which from where you can get to other links which will lead you to Pirate Bay, because Pirate Bay doesn't have a fixed link. It keeps jumping around to not get taken down, because again, it's a piracy website. People don't like piracy generally. People people being people who earn money from selling video games and whatnot. Generally, it's corporate people. I don't think actually gamers or game developers mind piracy that much. But yeah, so when I open Pirate Bay, you will see there is a search button, and then under that there is all audio, video, application, games. I'll just say adult videos and others. So, for example, let's say I wanna search for Tekken. So I search Tekken there, and I'll put it on all, and then you can get a list of files. So right now I'm looking at a list where it says Tekken 3, Tekken 7, Tekken Street Fighter X, Tekken 7 PC full game. Now the thing is that if you see on the right side, okay, so if you see on the left side actually, you will see there are some skull icons every now and then. The skull icons, the green skull means that this is a seed, this is a file that has been confirmed to be free of any malware. Rather, it's a file that's uploaded by a verified user, so it's much less likely to have a virus or anything. Then there is a pink skull emoji, which means it's even less like not even less. It's slightly more likely to have a virus, because what pink skull means, as far as I need to remember, is that this is a new user, but they have been uploading frequently. They are not verified, but they have been uploading frequently. So again, it's a bit safer. It's a bit less safer, but it is still safer than no icon at all. Then there are some comment icons, which just means that they have been commented on. So again, keeping this in mind, you can use these marks, basically these skull emojis, as this is safe, or this is not safe, or this is a bit risky. I would suggest never to pirate anything that doesn't have the skull emoji, and never to pirate anything from Pirate Bay directly. I would suggest going to FitGirl or going to Dodi Repack. They also have options to pirate using non-torrenting methods, although they are usually not very good because they get taken down very quickly. But yeah, so this is basically how piracy works. Now I'll talk about emulation for a bit. So I will talk about emulation of two games, I think. So one, I have a PlayStation 3 and the other is Game Boy Advance. So for Game Boy Advance, I have two emulators. One is MGBA and one is RetroArch. So RetroArch is more like a hub where you can have a lot of different games. I don't use that too often, but the main benefit of RetroArch is that it is very open source kind of. MGBA is also very good. It doesn't have as many features as RetroArch, and it's only for GBA games, but it is also pretty good. How it works is, it's basically a software which when you open it, it's basically like a file explorer. So you can select a file, and once you select a GBA file, it will run that game, and then you can just play that game. So this is how it runs. Then there is and these emulators are usually available for free anywhere. The games themselves are a bit hard to find. Older games are very easy to find. So there is a Vim Slayer, a website where you can find most of these games. There is WoW ROMs, but then there are games of consoles that have come very late. So for example, PlayStation 3. I have one PlayStation 3 emulator. I have one game on it. And it runs very poor. It runs fine, but it is much less ideal than others, because what my PC is trying to do is run an entirely new computer in it, which is obviously very difficult. So it's not the most ideal thing. You can run any console, I believe, up to, you can't run Xbox One, you can't run PlayStation 4 or 5, or maybe you can run PlayStation 4. I'll have to check on that. And you can run Nintendo Switch. And anything under these consoles, but the latest ones are always not very well optimized and struggle to run any games very well. But yeah, so this is how emulation works. You have to get an emulator. You have to get files for it. So they are called directory. What are they called? They are called firmware files. You have to give them to the emulator. The firmware files are usually available on, for example, Sony's firmware is available on the websites, but later ones will not be. Then lastly, you can get the games at different ROM websites or even piracy websites. So for example, Pirate Bay. Sometimes you can even get them on FitGirl. So FitGirl has Nintendo Switch. I think Mario Odyssey, she has put it. But yeah. Okay. Oh. So I hope at least it's enjoyable. Again, I feel like I have repeated some of these, but this is a much more comprehensive kind of uh, audio in terms of explaining these things. There are a lot of emulators. So I have emulators for PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, one for Xbox One, if I'm not wrong, specifically to play Saints Row 1. I have emulators for Game Boy Advance, NES, and that's it, I think. Oh yeah, I also have emulators for Wii and Nintendo Wii and 3DS. So yeah, a lot of Wii U also, but I'll have to check that. But so I have a lot of emulators, as I think should be expected from anyone who wants to learn video games, video game histories and whatnot. But yeah. So, talking about video game history, so I have been doing a project with my friend, and I'll talk about that project. So, I'm a bit out of breath, I'm sorry. But yeah, so basically, the project is I'll actually read the report that I have written. So, basically, we have been writing reports and whatnot for the project. So, I'll open a folder. So, this folder has, for example, input criteria. It has just a second. It has input criteria. It has the last test we did. It has a presentation that we made, and it has the report. So I'll go through each one of them. So this is a group project. Let me just remove the. Actually, I should just do this. Just a second. Okay. Yeah. So so this is a group project, me and my friend. Most people are not doing group projects, so it's a bit different. The project topic. So this is a bit outdated, so I'll correct whatever needs to be corrected. Or actually, you know what? I'll just go with my presentation because it talks about the same things. So I'll just read the introduction. So me and my friend, I'm leaving out the names. Me and my friend aim toward making a unique game console with its defining features being a unique interactive element, portability, and bringing new elements to the stagnating limitations of video game design. Stagnation of input devices. So basically, I talk about how PlayStation controller, for example, if you see, they haven't evolved since the first and second generation. If you see, the biggest evolution was the addition of analog sticks, and that's it. So they don't provide too much uniqueness. Even consoles that do try, for example, Nintendo Wii, Nintendo Wii U, or Xbox Kinect, they are considered failed project by the companies themselves. Their sales go down very quickly, and eventually they die out, and companies move away from these projects. While presenting this, my sir actually did ask me that if I'm sure that these are considered failed projects, and I did compile a list of articles that talk about this after the fact. So now I have like 5 articles talking about Nintendo Wii, Nintendo Wii U, and Xbox Kinect, and how they are considered failed projects. Or Xbox Kinect is much simpler to explain because it is discontinued. Wii U are less so, but yeah, they are considered failed projects, by the way, because of their declining sales, and the games that were made for them didn't use their potential completely. So they ended up all being sports games. But yeah, so continuing with the presentation, we have project description, which will be a portable gaming console, Linux based, unique input method, and games designed for the same. Now I'll mention this one thing, which is just a second. So I'll mention this one thing that wait. Oh yeah. So basically, I'm sorry. Just a second. Yeah. So sir said something that we shouldn't be talking about it being cheap or it being portable and things like this, because it's a experiment we're doing. It's very exploratory, it's very experimental, so we should not be constraining ourselves to these things, which I agree with. when we were formulating this presentation, which looks like trash by the way, the presentation looks very bad. But when we were formulating this presentation, we didn't think about this too much, and we wanted to put these constraints. But it makes sense that to not have these constraints, so we'll need to amend this in the next one. Then our aim is utilizing unique hardware, maximizing resources, freshness in gameplay and storytelling, and curating a diverse gaming library. The objectives is portability, affordability, and interactability. Approaches and methods. So this is okay. You know what? I'm going to skip this because it's boring. This is just some stuff that we needed to put. So I'm just going to more or less skip this. So the expected outcome is one portable gaming console, or at least a prototype, and 1 to 3 games. We have a timeline to work on. We have progress so far. So we did testing on various input methods, Xbox controller and keyboard and mouse, deciding on criteria for input method selection, roleplay testing with dials, proximity sensor, gyroscope sensor, and stacked joysticks. What this means is basically we played like a house with these controllers, and comparing and listing pros and cons of various input methods. Then we decided on what types of input we want. So unique, harmonious surroundings. So it can use the surroundings. I'll mention this later. Portability and simple. And then I have a report of the last testing we did. And yeah, that's our presentation. So when I say harmonious, basically it means that you are doing the same action in real life that is happening in the game. So for example, when you jump in a video game, usually it's just pressing a button, which doesn't really correspond to anything jumping related, right? So ideally, when you jump in a video game, it would be something similar you're doing in real life as well. And surrounding. So basically my friend brought up that we can use proximity sensors, and I was like, proximity sensors? That could be very interesting, because like imagine this, you're in a game, right, and you suddenly need to cross a river, and there's a game mechanic where if you point at something and it spawns that long of some object in game. So for example, I can point at a distant door or something, and I can spawn that big of a door or that big of a wooden plank or something, and I can spawn that in game and I can cross the river. That could be so interesting, right? So yeah, one more thing that we were talking about was, let's just for a minute pretend that material detectors exist. Imagine how interesting it could be to have a material detector in back of your game, and we just put different materials in it, and it detects what material it is, and spawns that material in game. So material detectors don't exist, but capacitors exist, which are basically like how much electricity can flow through a object, and we can use that very creatively as well. So we are looking around that as well. But yeah, so I'll talk about how we are doing the testing. So our testing is basically, this is going to get taken down from Pillow Talk Audio, isn't it? Okay, so the testing we did was on racing games. So we have a long list of games in which we are doing all these tests. So the way we do the test is we play the games first, and then we pretend to play the games with a different controller, like a made-up controller, and see how it fares against the actual controllers. So I'll just read. So notes on existing input. So Xbox controller has 2 triggers for acceleration and brake, one joystick for steering, and one button for handbrake. I won't read all of it, but basically what we ended up concluding was that controllers seem to have been designed for racing game, which in turn seems to have been designed with both controllers and keyboard in mind. A good example of how synergy between controller design and game design can benefit player experience. So yeah, this was our project. It went very well. So I'll be honest, a lot of the projects we have did in the past were kind of depressing, honestly, the presentations we did, because we didn't really have too much to show for. We weren't interested in the project by the end of the project. But this time it was very, very fun. I think both me and my friend agreed that this was a very good presentation, and this is a very good start. So this is the first presentation we had, and we have like 3-4 left. And yeah, we are very hopeful for obviously this is very ambitious, like we're not going to able to design a whole console by the end of it, but we are very hopeful. And yeah, it should be fun. I hope that it is fun by the end of it. But yeah, anyways, this is all I have, I think. Hope you enjoyed. This was a long audio, but yeah, hope you enjoyed, and yeah, hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.